Frazzland.
I'm Fraz.
I'm Redacted, and we're quitting, and we're talking, and we're teaching, but except none of us are teaching anymore. Welcome to our special guest. Introduce yourself, guest.
I'm that Spanish teacher. My real name is Kristi, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeehaw.
Here to say everything I couldn't when I was a teacher.
We're not teachers anymore right now. Maybe you will be, though, Redacted.
We'll see. Someone's gonna have to pony up the cash.
Just start getting really weird on Twitch. Start doing your, history lessons in, a mini pool.
Oh my god, I had no idea that, the mini pools were a thing on Twitch.
Are they?
Because I don't watch Twitch. I just go live. I don't watch other people's Twitch. Sometimes they come up on my, little suggested. And there was, girls, in a mini pool, talking about stuff. And I was like, okay. And then I saw there were, a lot more of them. Maybe if I got not a mini pool, but more of a pit and made, a ball pit, at McDonald's, and just taught from inside the ball pit.
Okay. Yeah. I literally love your streams.
Someone left me a comment on TikTok. I actually posted it on Instagram. No tea, no shade to this commenter. You have freedom of speech in my comment section. But they were like, can you please make your streams more structured and less about internet jokes and chatting with the audience? And I was like, that's kind of our whole thing. I was like, we do appreciate all feedback here at a Walmart Parking Lot Inc. And we will be floating this to the team. However, everyone else has aggressively given the opposite feedback.
Where did the name of Walmart Parking Lot come from? I've thought about that so many times and I love it.
So this is actually perfect. Let's tell the story. I've never told this. My username on TikTok used to be, hey bitch, it's me 123. I just was fucking around. I would just watch other people's videos. I'd never posted anything. And then I started making videos. Once I hit 10,000 followers, I was like, I am a public school teacher. I cannot have a username that's hey bitch, it's me 123. But I was like, I don't want it to be my actual name, and I don't want it to be something that's necessarily a teacher name. And so I just thought what's something weird but specific but rings true to me, and then not to be sappy and lame. But my sister is 6 years older than me, and when she was in high school, she would always take me to Walmart after her shifts at Applebee's, and we would get bubbles and chalk and just hang out in the Walmart parking lots together. So that's why that's my username.
That's so nice.
That's shockingly wholesome.
I know, right? So that's why I'll literally never change it. Hey bitch, it's me 123 was a pretty iconic era, though. I wonder if anybody remembers that era.
Honestly, you should have a burner account and just post the most unhinged content.
Oh, I should change it to that. I hadn't thought about that. I made a backup account and it's a Walmart parking after dark, but I like the hey bitch, it's me 123 better. So,
you are a former teacher.
Tell us a little bit of background. How long did you teach? What did you teach?
I taught high school Spanish for around 7 years. I left in my 7th year. It was a wild ride. I am sad that it's over, but it also was a really healthy thing for me to step away because my mental health was in the absolute shitter when I left. I'm in a totally different headspace now. Medicated, living the life, So.
Yes, we love medication. I love a Zoloft moment for myself. Okay, listen. You were posting stuff about somebody, there was a student and their parent that made you quit. What's
I don't even know. There's so many.
No,
There's
wait,
so
there was
many.
I'm gonna dead ass find it right now because I was I can't ask you that on the social media because it just feels personal, but now you're on my podcast and I'm gonna ask you a question.
I'll say anything. I don't even care anymore.
Oh, these ones. Calling your parents
You're
to tell them.
You're is this you, ma'am? Is this you?
I did have a couple of standout things that I can definitely talk about that were significant that kind of pushed me over the edge that I haven't really opened up that much about.
The over the edge ones.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Really the issue was the parents, and I've said that before and I'll say it 1,000 times, I truly left education because of parents. They were just so entitled, bad behaviors. I can deal with them on a day-to-day basis. There were so many kids that if I just sat down with them, had a real talk with them, they would be real people and just be able to recognize I'm a person, you're a person, we don't need to be this. We both have to be here. Let's make it as good as it can be, even if we don't necessarily agree on what's going on. But the parents were just miserable. The amount of parents who would just look me in the eye and tell me that I was lying. I was always the bad guy and nothing I ever did was enough. And I'm looking at people and I'm these people are not crying in their classrooms. These people aren't having problems with parents. What's the difference between us? And I realized these people were coasting. That's not to say everybody, obviously, but there was so many people who were just I'm done fighting because I know I'm going to lose and I'm not not even just gonna like lose this battle, but I'm gonna lose all my time, my emotional energy, like all these things in between that. And so I was like, well, I didn't go into teaching to compromise on all my principles. I wanted to go into teaching to be what my teachers were to me. Like I wanted to be the person who believes in someone before they have the ability to believe in themselves. I was a terrible student. Like I know most teachers are not terrible students. There are people who assume they're not, but I was the pits.
Same. I was an average student, but I was a bitch. Like I wanted to be right. I wanted to make the teacher look stupid. Like I wanted to be like, haha, bitch, like told you. And I got it back karma so real.
It's
so
the worst.
real.
But at least like you see yourself in them and you're like, okay, there's hope here because like I'm not a complete asshole, so like you can't be a complete asshole too. So like I can see to the gooey center of you.
My strategy was like, if they were gonna be an asshole to me, I'm just gonna out asshole you because I have 10 years more experience doing it. So
I used to say that to my kids.
I'm a more advanced you.
I'm like, you think you can cheat on my test? I cheated on every test. I know every trick in the book. I know tricks you haven't even thought of yet, and I'm gonna catch you doing it, and I'm gonna have proof of it, and then I'm gonna show it to your parents.
And then your parents are gonna call me a liar, and I'm gonna cry in my car.
Exactly. Legit. My high school teachers like let me do whatever I wanted, and then like I got to college, and finally people were like, no. I almost failed out of college my freshman year, and I was like, oh shit, like I really wish I learned this in high school when it was free. And so like that was part of my thing too. Like I really wanted to give my kids structure and accountability and be like, I'm gonna see you, I'm gonna be real with you, I'm gonna like give you a break when you need it, but like I'm also gonna hold you to your shit. Giving me some half-ass work is not going to cut it because I know you're better than that. And I didn't want to compromise on that. I knew if I was like a lesser version of myself and let kids do whatever they wanted because I didn't want to fight the battle, that's not who I am. That's literally not why I got into this. I'm not helping anyone. I'm just going to be churning out milquetoast kids and I'm going to be unhappy too. So what's the point? So that was when I kind of knew I was like, this isn't working. I'm either going to compromise on my principles or I'm going to walk away. And then things kind of unfolded and I got in a new profession like really fast. And I was like, all right, see ya.
Hit the bricks.
Never looked back.
I'm very much also on the high expectations are a gift train, but I had the opposite experience where my high school literally acted like we were going to Harvard. Like they were so fucking strict and gave us so much work for no reason. So I got to college and didn't study at all and almost got a 4.0 and was like, literally, what's wrong with all of you? Then I saw like how so many of my peers in college had not been held to like, oh, it was due at 7 a.m. It's 7:03 right now. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not that way. I'm not super strict that way, but I think it's a life skill to be able to thrive in an environment where someone is that way.
Yeah.
So I was the same way, and I would sometimes get flack for it.
Literally, my boss used to say to me, like, when parents would fight and they'd come to my department chair and, like, complain about me, and she'd be like, end of the day, like, are we here to teach them Spanish? Are we here to teach them time management skills? And I'm like, if you're asking me to choose, you're not gonna like the answer. Most of these kids are not gonna go on to become Spanish majors. They're not gonna become bilingual. Like, that's just not the reality. Kids are not passionate about it. They're here to serve their time and get out. But if I can take that time with them to teach them things that they will never not use, like time management, self-management, like accountability, those will never go away. They'll never not be valuable. So if like I can give that to them in their time that they're paying their dues with me, like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Yeah. I love a conjugation like the next bitch, but like, I don't care. Like,
it's such a like a illusion for a high school teacher to think that the kids are there because they're so passionate about the content. You do get it on occasion where you get a kid who's super passionate about the thing you're teaching. Like, that's just not the situation that we're in, unfortunately. Like, this is a government mandated vibe.
Are we saying that Fraz's kindergartners didn't come in being like 2 + 2, let's go?
My kindergartners low-key do really want to be there, so I don't know what y'all are talking about.
I know. What is that like? Yeah. My friends used to tell me, they're like, you should be an elementary school teacher, because like I decorated the shit out of my classroom. It was so extra. It was disgusting. My coworkers used to hate me.
I also was hated. I was like, this is a home goods.
I used to do crafts in my high school, and I'm like, if you think they don't like it, you're stupid. They love it and they just don't want to admit it. So I'm like decorating my room, doing crafts, like I'm playing games with my kids. I'm like so energetic, and they're like, why don't you teach elementary school? And I'm like, because if I ever had to wipe someone's butt or clean up vomit, I would be out that day.
Girl, we don't wipe butts. We would get fired. We also don't clean vom.
Yeah, but like Fraz, like what was that like to have your kids like walk in and just be like so excited to see you and they like love you? My kids, I'm like, good morning, and they're like giving me the finger.
I loved it. Even like getting on Zoom during COVID, they were so stoked.
Your COVID videos were so cute.
Thank you. I love them. And I'm like trauma bonded to that group. Their parents will occasionally find me on social media and be like, oh my God, Miss daughter. And I'm like, hey.
I'm famous.
When you're a kindergarten teacher, you always feel famous. Just another day at the office.
That must be so nice. And you get all the gifts at Christmas. Like, all my friends who are elementary school teachers, they're like carrying out these giant bags and boxes of gifts.
I'd have to take a cart to my car.
But one time, my kids, I don't remember what holiday it was. It was some, like, not even that important holiday, but I guess they were, like, inspired to get me a gift. They all, like, pooled their money and got me, like, random candy from the vending machines. They were like, we always see you eating candy out of the prize bins for your lunch. And I was like, this is thoughtful. I love it.
That's so sweet. Oh
You're like, this is either the best moment or the saddest moment.
I was like, y'all saw me at my low. So what was the other parts? We kind of got into the general demise of your teaching career, but what let's talk some shit. What happened? What'd they do? Tell us everything.
Basically, the last group that I had, I felt like I'd finally hit my groove as a teacher. I know what I'm doing. Like, I know how to not handle things. I told my kids I was going on my honeymoon. Like, they all knew I was, like, really excited, obviously, to get freaking married. And so I'm like, you have to really respect my room. I put a lot of money in this, and, like, for you too, it's not just for me. Then I was always, like, really serious with kids about subs. I'm like, if I ever hear you disrespect a sub, I was a sub. It is hell on earth. You will rue the day that you disrespected my sub.
You will feel my wrath if there is a note left. Even if it's a positive note, but from the pen marks, it looks like they were tense writing it, you will be hearing from me.
I normally never had any problems. Like, obviously I had, like, occasional, like, bad message from a sub, but, like, nothing crazy. And, like, I never had a kid ever break anything in my room in 7 years. I came back from my honeymoon. The worst note I've ever gotten. Teacher literally wrote, "contact tracing nightmare." And, like, I had given my kids a lecture, like, do not move seats. It's contact tracing. It's a danger to other students. Like, I don't care if you don't agree with it. Like, respect it. They didn't. And then, like, they broke a ton of shit. Like, my room was in a shambles when I got back. I literally got back from my honeymoon and I went into my classroom and I cried. I just felt so disrespected. Like, you think this little of me kind of broke me a little bit. Obviously, there were so many other things. Like, COVID was so hard. And, like, the year after, I was like, it has to be better than last year. And then it wasn't. And then the next year was supposed to be better. And then it wasn't. And I was like, okay, if it's not better by now, like, when's it gonna get better? There was so much other stuff going on, but that, like, really, I think I called my parents, like, that day, and I was like, I think I want to leave teaching. And they were like, whoa. Like, I talked about doing that Spanish teacher full time and just, like, making it my full-time job, because, like, I sell merch on the side too on my website. Shout out to myself. Competing with Fraz on her merch. Sorry.
There's room for everyone.
Yeah, there is. The kids were like, oh, you're scary when you came back, because I was just like, I'm so disappointed in you, like, and I made all of them write an apology letter to the sub. I was like, I don't care if you think you weren't involved. I'm like, you sat in this classroom and you didn't say anything. And, like, I had kids who I'd had for multiple years I had really good relationships with, and, like, that was what they wrote. They're like, I'm so sorry I didn't speak up on your behalf and, like, make kids respect your room, like, knowing how much it means to you and stuff like that. I don't have anything against those kids. Like, they're kids. Like, no one did anything irreversible. If that had been a one-time instance with nothing else around it, like, it was isolated, never would I have left teaching from that. That was just, like, one thing that kind of just, like, tipped the scale, you know?
Yeah. I had not a similar situation, but I had, like, kids mess up my room and be not great to a sub. But I know what you mean. It's, like, particularly demoralizing and disrespectful. So, like, mine was kids who were not in my class pretended to be in my class and then stole stuff out of my classroom. And a bunch of my students cut my class because they had a sub, so they weren't there to, like, defend my honor. It just, you feel so helpless because it's like, I'm not there. And it makes you feel like no one in that building, like, cares about you or wants to protect, like, the work and time and money you've put into stuff. So I get how, like, that can be the needle that breaks the camel's back.
There's something about the way that, like, teachers are culturally represented that, like, students are, like, wired to think that we're the enemy, like, we're against them. I say to my kids, I'm like, I don't know a single teacher who's not here because they, like, love it. Like, you gotta love it to do this. Like, they care about you. Like, the amount of time and, like, emotional energy that goes into, like, trying to make things fun. I'm like, anytime you do anything in a classroom that is not a worksheet, that is something that your teacher did not have to do and they chose to do on your behalf. Trust me, it is a lot easier for me to do worksheets every day than to play these freaking games that you guys are obsessed with, you know? So it's like, I'm a real person. Like, I have feelings and I care about you a lot. Like, I don't, like, know how to tell kids. It's like, teachers literally lay down their lives for you guys. And it's like, I don't know a teacher that wouldn't do that. How do you, like, go in and hate that person, like, every day? I'm like, it's exhausting.
Yeah. And it's, like you said, so demoralizing, redacted. I mean, like, what you're saying, Kristi, resonates with me so much. I remember last year, kids breaking my room. I was out of my room for one day, and I came back, and, like, my teacher chair was broken. It was just devastating to spend all of that money on stuff, and the world is shitting on teachers all the time, and at least your classroom is like your little refuge. But if kids are disrespecting it, I mean, we're here for our students. You know, at the end of the day, that's why we're there. And if it feels like they don't want us there, or they don't respect what we've given them, it hurts. Like, even though they are kids, it still hurts in a very special kind of way, I think.
Yeah, because you, like, love them so much. It's like, you know, like, you we call them your kids. It's like, you kind of low-key feel that way. It's really hard to disconnect from that and, like, walk away from that. Like, I felt really guilty when I walked away from teaching. I was like, I'm a shit person. People wrote, oh my God, when I saw people writing, I think it was you, Fraz, that people were like, isn't gonna be so bad when, like, you come in the middle of the year or 2 months into the year? And I'm like, oh yeah, let's deny her child a mother so that kids who bounce back like this won't have a teacher that they know for 2 months. Like, are you kidding me?
What kind of person that's over the age of, like, 11 remembers that their, like, elementary teacher was not there for 2 months? Like, what person is looking back and is like, yeah, things were going pretty well, but then in 3rd grade, my teacher wasn't showing up till November because she had a baby, and it's just ever since then downhill. Like, it's a job. Like, I know it's an incredible, important job in the future, blah, 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 blah.
No.
But, like, let's level set.
Seriously. It's like you said, like, when I was saying about how, like, the no good deed goes unpunished in education, it's like, you know, the same thing with you and, like, those stupid water bottles, Fraz. Like, that was a nice thing that you did for your students to help them be safe and hydrated during COVID. People were, like, freaking out. And I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this was a nice thing that was paid for by a teacher, and she took their time and her money and her effort to put their names on it, all this stuff for her kids because she cares about them and loves them. And people were like,
but it was in Sharpie, Kristi. I only put their names in Sharpie. People said the most off the wall shit I've ever heard to me. They were like, you know, if you don't, because, okay, for those of you who have not seen the water bottle saga, because there are people that are not chronically online and missed water bottle gate.
I should do a history stream about water bottle gate.
It would fill some time. So I bought these water bottles because COVID obviously closed our water fountains. I just bought them from the dollar store. I could have just sent the kids downstairs to get a disposable water bottle every day, but I don't want to stop instructional time to do that. I posted about it because I was like, this is actually probably something a lot of teachers are going through. Like, maybe I'll share that, hey, they're at the dollar store. Oh, no. People were like, they have BPA in them. They had an orange sticker right on the front that said BPA free.
It's also illegal to put BPA in, like, products for children now, I think.
A lot of things were just all kinds of backwards. But then they were like, are they gonna mix their water bottles up? And I was like, I put their name on them. And they're like, no, you didn't. And I'm like, well, you can't see their names, but I promise I put their names on them. And they're like, did you put their names on the lid and the cup so that they don't switch the tops because COVID? And I was like, no. And they were like, why? You want them to get sick? And I'm like, oh my God. Then they're like, you need to get a water bottle holder for them. You need to get one of the shoe things. And I was like, I actually used the shoe thing in 2018 and it got moldy inside. I don't need that. They can keep them on their desk. Well, I just thought you would make it special. And I was like, what the fuck? You mean I'm going to make it special? Like, it is special. They were like, well, you know what? If you send me your class list, I'll make you Cricut labels because the Sharpie will wash off. And I'm like, I'll write it again. But then I was like, I will not send you my class list. And people were like, I will make symbols. Everybody will get a different animal and shape combination. I'm not kidding. This is the level that people are going to. And I was like, shut up.
When you accidentally create a new written language of animals and symbols for Miss Frazzled's classroom water bottles, I really can't believe that people were truly like, well, Timmy might want a soccer ball on his water bottle.
Give them stickers so that they can decorate their water bottle. Literally, no.
Why won't you violate FERPA? Send me their list right now. You don't care about your kids if you're not violating federal law.
People were like, that's not FERPA.
New plan. We post a video reading through the entire class list with their addresses and birthdays as a contest, and whoever sends in the best water bottles gets to come to the school and show them to the kids.
It was that moment that I was like, I hate it on the internet. Like, that was the beginning of the end.
The Curb Your Enthusiasm music starts playing in the background.
Anyway, so that was the water
All
bottle.
I know FERPA is you don't post other people's kids. Don't post them, don't talk about them. If you do nothing, you can't be found guilty.
Listen, you have the bare minimum down, which a lot of teachers don't these days. So I feel like that's you're set, okay?
I'm curious, Kristi, because you were saying like stuff about how sad and guilty you were. And I have a theory, but I want to test it.
Okay.
Did you always want to be a teacher?
No.
Okay, shit, my theory went out the window because I feel like people who have aspired to be teachers their entire lives tend to have more guilt in that area, but actually you and Redacted both didn't want to be teachers and both had immense guilt for leaving the education system.
That's because we were both shit students that feel bad that we're letting down future us's. That's why.
Yeah, I think maybe your theory is just slightly off and it's like a certain emotion. And it can come from wanting to be a lifelong teacher, but it doesn't have to.
I feel like it's just being a woman. Honestly, I really do. I feel like it is. It's like Fraz has mom guilt because she literally left her baby alone for 40 minutes, and it's like that's completely misplaced.
So we know about the sub issue of that week, but were there other defining moments that made you decide to leave teaching? And like, when did you start looking and how'd you get out? What are you doing now? All that kind of journey.
I said this to my friends, and I don't know if like anyone else felt this way, but like the class that I had when I left, I felt like just did not care about me at all. Like it was so strange. I felt like COVID made kids so apathetic, like way more than normal. And I'm like, am I an old married hag now?
You're like, I literally put a meme in the PowerPoint. That's definitely not it.
I have a Bitmoji in my presentation. Do you not see that?
Sorry to sidetrack us, but I can't not say this. One time I had my Bitmoji in a PowerPoint, and then I heard the kids talking about it, and they go, why do teachers always put that weird little cartoon character? And then another one goes, they think it's fun. Just laugh at it. I was like, thank you. I do think it's fun, and thank you for laughing. That means a lot to me.
I was like in that whole like Bitmoji classroom thing, which by the way, biggest waste of my time.
We all spent hours on it for not a single child to look at it.
I sold those on Teachers Pay Teachers.
Hell yeah. I needed to make a TikTok of my Bitmoji classroom because it was the most hyper-focused, unhinged, seizing control where we could because everything felt so out of control. Like
That's what it was.
Oh, that was
all of us were like, I don't know if they're coming in person. They won't give me access to this weird online platform. I can make a Bitmoji classroom and that'll be great.
This will make me feel better.
That is so real.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head. So like they just like don't care. They like don't care about anything that I'm doing. And like other years I felt like kids did and I was able to connect with them. And it was like weird and like
I noticed a really big difference in kids who during COVID were home alone versus kids who had like bigger families or would go to their friends' houses. I think like socialization and human connection is a muscle, and I think especially a lot of teenagers who were legit home alone all day, every single day for like over a year, just like forgot how to connect with people. And because I remember that like it was just mad awkward. Like I remember other years, the first day of school, the kids were like kind of rowdy just because they hadn't seen each other in a long time and they were kind of like new environment, new teachers, whatever. And I remember like the first day of school 2021, I was like up in the front of the room and I was like, what's up you guys? And they were all just like staring at me. After a while they kind of opened up and I actually connected really, really well with those kids. But I remember like the first couple weeks just being like, this is literally so awkward.
that's like around when I left, because I put in my notice the first week in November. I had to serve 90 days notice, 90 school days notice. So count Christmas break, Thanksgiving break, like everything in there.
That's too long.
That's literally that show 60 Days In where they send people to prison. It's only 60 days.
You're like, these are equivalent.
I hate Ron DeSantis's Florida, but I got to put in that 2-week notice. Like, and I legally didn't even have to do that, I don't think.
And then the worst part is literally that same year, another teacher from my department left, and they literally let her leave 3 weeks after her notice. And I was like, okay.
You're like, I was a hostage for literal months with Kay.
The last week of my job was so wild. They like cut off my Google Drive access. A kid called me a fucking bitch to my face because I took his phone. I was like, this is peak. Like, I'm so glad I'm leaving.
You're like, everything that's happening right now is really affirming all of my decisions up till this point in time.
Seriously.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. since you left?
So a lot of people ask me like how I got into my job, and I feel so bad because I'm like, I fell into this. My bad.
It happens.
I don't have any good advice for people on like how to get out of teaching or like what you should do instead.
If you are looking for advice, please listen to episode 5 with Tamika. Thank you. And moving on. This is not an advice episode.
So basically, I reached out to a friend of mine. And I was like, hey, I know you left teaching last year, like, especially as a Spanish teacher. Like, I'm not Latina. Like, I don't have anyone in my life who speaks Spanish besides me and, like, some of my teacher friends. And I was like, I don't want to leave my job and lose this. Like, it is so true. If you don't use it, you lose it. And I was like, I don't want that to be me. This is my favorite thing about myself is that I'm bilingual. It's, like, my hardest thing I did. It was the biggest accomplishment in my life. It's the thing I'm the most proud of. So I was like, as a language teacher, like, are you happy that you left the classroom? And she, like, wrote me a novel, like, telling me how happy she was and, like, how much she loved her new job. And I was like, damn, girl, like, I was just asking if you're happy. And, like, you're, like, selling me to come work at your company. And she was like, if you're serious, we're hiring. I applied, and 2 weeks later, they hired me.
We love.
Yeah, and they were so nice. They waited the 90 days for me, which was so nice. So now I work for a textbook publisher. And so I work with teachers still every day, which is really great. And I really love, like, doing professional development. Like, I loved making, like, my YouTube tutorials and stuff, like, teaching teachers how to use different platforms. And, like, I loved selling my lessons. So I realized, like, I love teaching, but I love teaching teachers because they're really enthusiastic students, you know, they just want to learn better ways to be better teachers. So then this position just like ended up being really great for me because I still work with teachers every day. Like, I talk to them about their programs. I get to speak in Spanish like constantly, more than I did before. Like, my Spanish has already grown since I started this new job in January. And I really appreciate the company that I work for. Like, they make really great materials. They're very, like, diverse, and, like, they really care about teachers' opinions and feedback, and, like, that's how they base a lot of their books. Someone was like, oh, you sold your soul to work for a textbook company? And I was like, I'm not working for, like, the man. Like, I work for a small company that does good stuff. Everyone's got to use a textbook, so might as well work for one that's good.
Aw, we love that you still get to work with teachers. Teachers are very good students, except for me.
Oh, I'm the worst.
No, I would literally be at PD, and I'd be like, I actually hate it here, and I think that's a terrible idea.
I remember I went to a PD one time. This woman literally was suggesting to us, she's like, you can do this for free. You can go to your local pizza place and they will give you a bunch of pizza boxes. You make a pizza box for each of your students. And she's like, you write their name on them. They can even decorate it, which is so much fun. Mind you, this is a high school. Every time they hand something in or that you correct it, you put it in their pizza box. And at the end of the year, they get their pizza box back with all of their work so they can see how they grew. And I'm like, I have 130 students. You're telling me I should put 130 pizza boxes in my classroom and then have kids shove shit in them and then like
no system, just vibes.
And then at the end of the year, they're gonna just like bonfire that shit immediately. Like,
what's wrong with like a folder? Why are we doing a fucking pizza box?
I was like,
what is going on?
Also, as someone who used to work at a family-owned local pizza restaurant, if someone had come in and asked for boxes, the owner literally would have been like, actually go tell them to go fuck themselves because we cannot afford to just give away supplies. I don't know what you think this is.
Like, every teacher in the district coming in and be like, can we have some pizza boxes?
The Papa John's manager is like, hello, I'd like to speak to the superintendent.
It's Papa John himself. Oh my god. So, like, is there anything that would make you go back to teaching, or is it like you're done, nothing?
It's so hard because, like, when I left teaching, I was like, I'll leave the door open, like, maybe I'll go back, like, I hope I go back one day, like, because I loved it, and, like, I didn't want to leave, like, I left because I felt like I had to. I would say probably I'm more no going back than yes now, and the reason is twofold. Like, one, I work in corporate America now, and let me tell you, it's sweet. I gotta say, like, my company flew me to Barcelona this year. Like, I went to Puerto Rico on a trip this year. I went to Spain. I'm going to New York next week. They, like, want us to be happy and comfortable. Like, they pay for all my meals. If I want to have a drink at dinner, that's more than fine. Like, paid for, no problem. Like, I'm trusted in this job. I'm respected in this job. I'm appreciated in this job. I'm heard in this job. And those are so many things I didn't have in teaching. And like, I didn't realize how much I needed them until I started getting them. Also, working from home is amazing. I feel like it'd be really hard for me to go back now because I'm like, this is great. And I feel like the other thing is too, is that like, I feel like I would need to see a fundamental change in education as a whole. And I feel like right now it's just on like a serious decline. Like now it's getting even worse. Like all the teachers who are still in it, I'm like, yo, I feel for you guys because it's just getting worse for them because more teachers are leaving and then they have to pick up the slack for those teachers. Personally, like I hate to admit it, and like I really hate to admit because so many people were so nasty when I quit, and they were like, some people just can't take it, I guess. And like we're commenting that shit on my TikTok. Or they're like, oh, better that you got out. We don't want any weak teachers in the field. Honestly, like there is a little bit of truth to that because honestly, I don't know if I have the emotional capacity to be in a job where the constant message is you can do better. There is no such thing as like great lesson. Like that lesson was pretty good, but what would you do if you could teach it again? I'm like, nothing. It went great. Like, you know.
That was a big thing for me too, and part of the reason I left is because I was crying in my department head's classroom, and I was like, I just feel like I work so hard, and they give me these lists that are bullshit and all these stupid requirements, and I do all of them flawlessly, and I never get good job. Like I never get great, you did it. And he was like, they have to write that there's something wrong with you in order to defend their existence for getting paid to observe you. So stop trying to be perfect because you can be a rock star and they will find something wrong with you every single time.
Yep.
That's so true.
Yeah, and they will literally score you lower on purpose in the fall so that they can score you higher in the spring to show that their coaching was
effective.
Yeah, and it's like, I feel like a big thing that people don't really talk about is like inter-teacher culture, because it's like teachers are so mean to each other. So many teachers would just like put each other down, and I'm like, I feel like that's something that is really hard about education that like the corporate world doesn't have. Like if I work really hard and I bust my ass in the corporate world and I go above and beyond all the time, I'm likely going to get a promotion or a bonus or something. Like I'm going to get a corner office that's going to show that I'm hot shit. Teachers literally can only hierarchy themselves by putting other teachers down.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that like is so sad for me. If you're not winning teacher of the year, they're like, oh, well, I'm better than so-and-so because she does this. And I'm like, why do we do that? Like everyone else is talking shit about us. Why are we talking shit about each other? Like we got it hard enough. Why are we attacking each other? Like I never understood that.
I actually think it goes hand in hand though.
I think, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Because I think about that a lot. Teachers put other teachers down. People put other people down because if you are feeling insecurity, and God knows I've done it, if you're feeling insecure, you can look at somebody else and be like, oh, I found something they're doing wrong. And by calling it out, I make myself have that little serotonin hit because people are like, yeah, you know what? That is kind of bullshit. And then you have that camaraderie. Then you have that like, oh, they have something that's negative about them. And you don't have to deal with your own shit for a second.
I think it's literally the same psychological trap that happens on The Bachelor. Like anytime a group of humans are like not having their needs met, they're gonna start going after each other, Lord of the Flies style. So like when you have no recognition, you're underpaid, you're over criticized, all of this, like you're gonna eat each other alive. I'm so glad we had you on. I feel like this has been very different than our other episodes. And I like that we're getting into the psychology of teacher on teacher hate. Kristi, thank you so much for being here with us. We're so glad that you quit, but you're still teaching and you're talking. Kristi has amazing merch. If you are a Spanish speaker and you would like some merch, Kristi's merch is the best merch for Spanish merch. I haven't looked at it, so it's hard to sell something.
It's beautiful. I haven't seen it, but I know it.
You can find me at That Spanish Teacher on pretty much everything, except for Twitter, because I can't get into that. And then ThatSpanishTeacher.com, you can find my unused blog, but my website is linked there to buy my merch. So
Thank you, Kristi.
This was really, really fun. I really appreciate you guys so much for having me on this.
To our listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode of Teacher Quit Talk. If you're listening to this on your commute and you're writing up your quit letter, give it a 24-hour think period before hitting send.
Tamika taught us that.
Have a great rest of your day, your evening, your morning, your week. We love you. We live with you. We laugh with you.
Bye. We love you. Bye.